All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Daily Power Parsha, Friday, April 1st. No, this is not an April Fool's joke. This is Daily Power Parsha. Not that you would think of that anyway, but nonetheless, Daily Power Parsha is this week covering the Torah portion of Tazria. And interestingly enough, we finished the Torah portion yesterday. We finished the conversation about Tazria yesterday, but there's still more to study. Because this week in Shul, it's one of those very rare occasions, only like 2 or 3 times a year, possibly, that we pull out 3 Torah scrolls from the Ark. And the reason that we pull out 3 scrolls is because we read 3 different sections of the Torah at the same occasion on Shabbat. We're going to read Tazria, the Torah portion, which comes from Leviticus. We're going to read
I have a question. I hate to interrupt you.
No worries.
But your video keeps freezing, and I don't know if it's only me. Your audio seems fine, or is it anybody else?
I haven't seen any freezing.
Okay.
People have called me cool, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. That's a joke. That's a joke. All right. Anyway, yeah. I'll try to be a little bit more stoic so that even if it freezes, nothing that dramatically will change. All right.
I can hear you fine.
Okay. Well, at least there's that. At least that's going through. So we have 3 Torahs. So the first Torah will be ready to go from Leviticus, Tazria, the Torah portion. The second Torah will be from the book of Numbers, where we read about Rosh Chodesh, which Shabbos is Rosh tonight, and Shabbat day is Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the first day of Nisan. And then for the third reading, we add on HaChodesh, which is the little section from Exodus that talks about the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh and getting the Paschal lamb ready for Passover. So those are the 3 readings. We start off with Leviticus, we then go to Numbers, and then we go all the way back to Exodus. Now, could you use one Torah and roll it back and forth? Sure. But the problem then is that everyone has to wait while you're scrolling. And that's not nice. To make a congregation wait, or more precisely, to make Jews wait, no way. That's going to be a mob scene. Remember what happened when the Jews had to wait for Moses? It ended up with the golden calf. We definitely do not want Jews waiting with too much time in their hands.
Are there headings in the Torah scroll? Like, no. See, that's why it makes it difficult. Yeah.
You have to know what you're looking for. It's all Hebrew. It's just Hebrew blocks of text with paragraph breaks. So you can, it's usually somebody who's familiar with the Torah and knows, like, okay, either we're not there yet, or we shot past it when we were scrolling and we got to reverse course a little bit. It takes some time. But a synagogue that has 3 Torah scrolls will pre-roll them before Shabbat to the correct places. And that's what we have 3 Torah scrolls, so that when you pull each one out, it's ready to go.
Is that what we do?
Loaded.
Do we have 3?
We do that. It's complicated.
It's complicated.
We have 3, but the third one we haven't checked. When you get a new Torah, you're supposed to check if it's kosher. So we got it, but we haven't checked it, so we don't use it. So we have 3, but we use 2. So what are we going to do, Shabbos? Come and find out. At some point, we're going to be scrolling. I mean, you do your best. But many synagogues have, like, I don't know, 5 Torahs, 10 Torahs. Like big shuls, they have a lot of Torahs. Small shuls have 1, so that you do your best. You use what you got. But there are 3 readings. So we've concluded Leviticus, our study of the Tazria Torah portion. We finished that yesterday. Today, we're going to do the Numbers and the Exodus readings, the one about Rosh Chodesh and the one about the Paschal lamb. So let's jump in. I'm going to share my screen. Let's do this. Oh, what did I do here? No, this is not at all what I wanted to share. This is not the right browser window. Let me get it up here. Ta-da. Got it. Now we're talking. All right, stay with me. Boom. Here we go. Oh, I have it locked to the Haftarah. All right, let me go back to 7. Reading number 7, not from Tazria, rather from the book of Numbers. That is not at all the same place, but we throw it on here because we have a lot of themes to cover this Shabbos. All right, Rosh Chodesh. The Torah tells us, and on the Sabbath day, this is a discussion of the offerings that were brought in the temple on Shabbat, on Rosh Chodesh, etc. Because this Shabbat is Shabbat Rosh Chodesh, so you would bring both of these offerings, the Sabbath offering, as well as the Rosh Chodesh offering. So let's start with the Sabbath offering, Shabbat offering. On the Shabbat day, you bring 2 unblemished lambs in the first year, 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a meal offering, mixed with oil and its libation. This is a burnt offering of each Shabbat on its Shabbat, in addition to the continual burnt offering and its libation. So this is what we would call a musaf offering, an additional offering, an additional burnt offering in honor of the Sabbath that is brought on Shabbat. Okay, so that's for Shabbos. What about Rosh Chodesh? And on your Rosh Chodeshes, so to speak, and on the beginning of your months, what do you do? Which, again, Shabbat is literally Rosh Chodesh this year. You shall offer up a burnt offering to the Lord, consisting of 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 lambs in the first year, all unblemished. That's a lot of animals for Rosh Chodesh. Again, 2 young bulls, 1 ram, that's 3, and 7 lambs, it's 10 animals. In addition to the animals, you bring some flour. 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a meal offering, mixed with oil for each bull, and 3/10 of an ephah mixed with oil, that's per bull. And how many bulls did you have? 2 bulls. Okay, so you do this recipe, so to speak, times 2. And 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a meal offering, mixed with oil for each ram. So you do, although there was only one ram. Okay. But I guess for that 1 ram, you do 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil. And what do you do for the lambs? You do 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil as a meal offering for each lamb, a burnt offering with a spirit of satisfaction, a fire offering to the Lord. So we have 3 types of animals: 2 bulls, 1 ram, 7 lambs, and with each of these animals, you would either do 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour, or 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour, or 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour. So it's 3/10 for the bull, 2/10 for the ram, and 1/10 for the lamb. What about their libations? You pour some wine with each offering and their libations. A half of a hin, that's a liquid measure, for each bull, 1/3 of a hin for each ram, and 1/4 of a hin for each lamb. And what do you pour? Wine. Not each lamb wine. What's lamb wine? That's not even a thing. Lamb wine? Hey, I want to order some lamb wine. That's not a thing. It's 1/4 of a hin for each lamb. And what 1/4 of a hin? That's a measure. What are you actually pouring? It's the wine. So these are wine libations. And I don't know what the word libation means in other contexts, but in this context, it means literally you take wine and you pour it by the altar. That's it. You don't drink it. You don't like swoosh it around and smell it. You pour it by the altar. By the way, this is probably a very appropriate time to mention that we are planning a beautiful wine and cheese event coming up in the month of May. So save the date. It's May 16th. I think it's May 16th or something, one of those dates in May. Check your local listings when we put it out there for consumption, literally and figuratively. Save the date for the wine and cheese event.
I may still be in Brooklyn.
Yeah. That's why I don't remember what date we settled on, but I think we're going to make sure it's not a conflict.
Because I may stay on. I'm hoping to stay the week after.
Right. We're going to take a look at the dates. Okay, now back inside. So that is what you pour and get for each offering. And again, the quantities diminish, right? Remember, 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour, 2/10, and then 1/10. Same thing here: half a hin, 1/3 of a hin, and 1/4 of a hin. Straight up, these are the measurements of the libations for each of the animals for these burnt offerings. And that's this is the burnt offering of each new month in its month throughout the months of the year. In other words, every Rosh Chodesh, every first of the month, you do the same series of offerings as detailed right here. And in addition to the burnt offerings, you bring up 1 young male goat for a sin offering to the Lord. It shall be offered up in addition to the continual burnt offering and its libations. All of these animals that we spoke about were burnt offerings. They were gifts to God on Rosh Chodesh, gifts to God on Shabbat. On Rosh Chodesh, you also add a sin offering to God. That is in addition to the rest. Now, that's the seventh reading. So that's from the book of Numbers, and it talks about the offerings on Shabbat and Rosh Chodesh because the Shabbat is Rosh Chodesh. What about the Maftir? We have one more reading. What's the Maftir? The Maftir is the story of the commandment of the Paschal Lamb while still in Egypt. So let's read it through. I mean, we did it, I guess, a few months ago when we went through the book of Exodus, but let's do it now in the context of this Shabbos. Exodus chapter 12, we begin with the verses that speak of Rosh Chodesh, and then we're going to segue into the Paschal Lamb. The Lord spoke to Moses and to Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month, the month of Nisan, the month that's coming up tonight and tomorrow, shall be to you the head of the months, Rosh Chadashim, like Rosh Hashanah, head of the year, Rosh Chadashim, head of the months. It is to you, or to you it shall be the first of the months of the year. So if you're counting month 1, month 2, month 3, that starts from Nisan. If you're counting the years, as we said Wednesday night, that starts Tishrei. You want to know when the calendar year turns? That's some other point in time. When do the months start? The cycle of months? Right now, Nisan. Let's continue. Then God continues about the Paschal Lamb. Speak to the entire, says to Moses in Egypt, speak to the entire community of Israel, saying on the 10th of this month, let each one take a lamb for each paternal home. Like every household should have a lamb, literally for each household. But if the household is too small for a lamb, in other words, not that the lamb is bigger than the house. That's not what we're concerned about. But we're concerned that ultimately when you eat the lamb, it's going to be too much lamb for one family to eat. Then he and his neighbor who is nearest to his house shall take one according to the number of people, each one according to one's ability to eat, shall you be counted for the lamb. In other words, split it. If you can't finish the whole lamb, it's too much. So then invite a neighbor over, join up with a neighbor, and that's it. Together, you'll knock out the lamb. Not literally, but you'll finish it. You shall have, so what about the lamb? Let's talk about the lamb now. You shall have a perfect male lamb in its first year. That's the Paschal lamb. It should be a perfect, and there's an unblemished male lamb in its first year. You may take it either from the sheep or from the goats. Okay? And you shall keep it for inspection. In other words, make sure you have it by the 10th of the month. Don't wait till last minute. Make sure by the 10th of the month of Nisan, you've got your lamb ready to go. And keep it for inspection until the 14th day of the month. What that means is, if you've selected your lamb and then you let it run outside, it might get hurt. It might get damaged by another animal. It might get bitten by a wild raccoon. I don't know. And then you can't bring it. So for those 4 days from day 10 to day 14, keep it at home. Keep it under lock. Keep it, very well watched so that it doesn't get injured. And then on the 14th day of the month, the entire congregation of the community of Israel shall slaughter it in the afternoon of the 14th. Now, Passover, we said before, begins on the 15th, the night of the 15th. So the afternoon of the 14th means literally a few hours before your Seder. That's when you slaughtered the Paschal lamb. This is not the times of the temple. This is talking about in Egypt. This was God telling Moses, tell the people they were still slaves at that point. This is before the 10th plague. So this is literally a communication in Egypt for that time period and for generations, but at that time. And they shall take some of the blood of this slaughtered Paschal lamb or sheep and put the blood on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel. Paint the doorway red. On the houses, paint the houses in which they will eat it. And on this night, so slaughter the animal, put the blood on the doorpost, then what? And on this night they shall eat the flesh of this animal sacrifice, roasted over the fire and unleavened cakes, matzah, with bitter herbs, with maror, they shall eat it. This was in Egypt, the diet. Roasted lamb, unleavened cakes, matzah, and maror, bitter herbs. You shall not eat it rare or boiled in water. Nope. Except roasted over the fire, its head with its legs and with its innards, the full thing, the full spit experience with this Paschal lamb. God is very concerned with how you cook this thing. And you shall not leave over any of it until morning. No leftovers for breakfast. Nope. And whatever is left over of it until morning, you shall burn it in fire. In other words, it's as we said in Leviticus, as in last few weeks in the Torah portion, if you have a sacrifice that has to be eaten, that day or that night, by the next morning, you got to burn it. You can't, no leftovers at that point. No repurposing, you got to burn it. And this is how you shall eat it, God says to Moses, tell the people, when you're sitting down at that meal on the 15th of Nisan in Egypt with your Paschal lamb, make sure that your loins are girded, your shoes are on your feet, and your staff in your hand. Be ready to roll. Be ready to roll. Your belts on, shoes on your feet, no pants falling down. Belts on, shoes on your feet, no straw. Oh, where are the shoes? Where are my shoes? Where did I put them? No. Shoes on your feet. Your loins girded, make sure your belt is on. Your walking stick is in your hand. You are ready to go. And you shall eat it in haste. Quickly. No dilly-dallying over this meal. Eat it quickly. It is a Passover sacrifice to the Lord. Why? Why does it have to be eaten so quickly? Why, ready to go, bags packed? What's going on? God continues, I will pass through the land of Egypt on this night. Remember, this communication with Moses happens 2 weeks before. This happens Rosh Chodesh. God says on the 10th of the month, get the lamb. On the 14th, sacrifice it, cook it, eat it on the 15th. This is all before, a few weeks before. This is the game plan. God says to Moses, tell the people, I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night, and I will smite every firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, upon all the gods of Egypt. I will wreak judgments. I, the Lord, I am going to do this myself. Why the blood? He just had paint the doorpost red, but why? And the blood will be for you as a sign upon your houses where you will be. I will see the blood and skip over you. The Hebrew is pasachti, Pesach, right? Using Pesach, Passover as a verb. I will pass over you. I will skip over you. And there will be no plague to destroy you when I smite the people of the land of Egypt. In other words, as I am destroying them, you will be safe if you follow the protocol. Take the animal, slaughter the animal, put the blood on the doorpost, and then nothing to worry about. And this day shall be for you as a memorial, and you shall celebrate it as a festival for the Lord. Memorial, it's zikaron, like Yizkar, zikaron. Zikaron means memory. It's a memorial. It's a memorable day. This day. This should be a day that you remember forever. The Exodus. This day means the Exodus, right? And celebrate it as a festival. We did that. We will do that soon also. Again, called Passover. Throughout your generations, that means all time, till this very day, you shall celebrate it as an everlasting statute. Celebrate the Exodus and God sparing the Jewish people with the 10th plague, etc. For 7 days now, regarding the holiday that we're creating right now, that God is creating, for 7 days you shall eat unleavened cakes. But on the preceding day, the day before the holiday, you shall clear away all leaven from your houses. This becomes the source of cleaning your house before Passover, making sure it is chametz free, no leaven. For whoever eats leaven from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. Very strong spiritual consequence for this. Make sure that you don't have, it's a spiritual consequence, not physical, but make sure you're not eating the chametz. Make sure it's gone from the houses. And on the first day of the holiday, there shall be a holy convocation. And on the 7th day, you shall have a holy convocation. Holy convocation means the whole thing is a holiday, but the 1st and 7th, the first and last days of the holiday, those are the ones in which we don't do work, etc. No work may be performed on them, but what is eaten by any soul, that alone may be performed for you. You're allowed to cook. So the way it works is like this, that holidays are similar to Shabbat with a few exceptions. Number one, Well, we'll just deal with one exception. You can cook on the holiday. You cannot cook on Shabbat. On Shabbat, whatever you eat should be cooked before Shabbat. On the holidays, you can cook. You just can't light a fire. So you have to keep the fire going. It's it's not very complicated, but there's a few details of that. But the short of it is you can cook on Yom Tiv. And how do we know this on the holiday? Because it says, right? No work may be done except what is eaten by any soul. In other words, the food that you need to eat, that alone may be performed for you. You can do it. Hey, Mark, welcome. And you shall watch over the unleavened cakes. Shmura matzah, ushmartem matzah is watch the matzah. Watch the unleavened cakes. Be very careful. It doesn't become chametz. It doesn't rise. No water, no yeast, obviously, no other ingredients. For on this very day, I have taken your legions out of the land of Egypt, and you shall observe this day throughout your generations as an everlasting statute. Why do all of this? Why? Because I took you out of Egypt. This is a holiday. This is an observance throughout all time, etc. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, in the evening, in other words, the evening of the 15th, which is 2 weeks from tonight, you shall eat unleavened cakes, matzah, until the 21st day of the month in the evening, which is the end of Passover. For 7 days, leavening shall not be found in your houses, right? You shouldn't be able to see it. That means if you keep it in your house and you sell it or whatever it is, make sure it's in a closet that you don't go into. Tape up the cabinet doors. Make sure that you're not accessing it. We're not only not supposed to eat chametz on Passover, we're also not supposed to see it. Bal yera, bal yematzah, not supposed to be seen or found. And that's right here. 7 days, leavening shall not be found in your houses. For whoever eats leavening, that soul shall be cut off from the community of Israel, both among the strangers and the native born of the land. Once again, doubling down on that prohibition against eating chametz. You shall not leave any leavening throughout all your dwellings. You shall eat unleavened cakes. That is how the reading ends about the commandment to eat matzah, to get rid of the chametz on Passover. And all of this was communicated by God to Moses while still in Egypt, while still a slave, officially a slave nation, at least as understood by the Egyptians. They were still slaves. Okay, questions or comments on this? There's a lot to talk about, but questions or comments on this?
So is this the Seder?
It's the origins.
The origins.
We don't have a Paschal lamb because we don't have a temple, and we don't want to do anything that even, could be misconstrued as bringing an offering. So we don't have lamb. We don't do lamb at the Seder. Shank bone is supposed to be symbolic of the missing element. We have everything else. We have the matzah, the maror. We even throw in extra things. We throw in an egg, salt water, tears, charoset, mortar. We throw in, we spruce it up a little bit. But we have one symbolic item for the Paschal lamb that we don't eat, and that is the shank bone. Chabad custom, by the way, to make sure that no one even thinks that we offered a Paschal lamb. We don't even have an animal bone. We use a chicken neck for that part of the Seder plate. We use a chicken neck, and that's symbolic of the lamb. But that's not lamb. That's the point. That's the point. We don't want to even. No one should come away from a Seder saying, "Oh yeah, they're still doing the Paschal lamb thing." We're not doing we don't have a temple. We're not doing the Paschal lamb. We don't do offerings. We eat food, and there's symbolism. But we're not trying to copy paste. This is not we're not bringing it back before we get a temple. Let's put it that way, right? So that's why Chabad custom goes with the chicken neck, and even the chicken neck, our custom is that we roast it. We roast it just like the Paschal lamb was roasted. You take the chicken neck and you roast it over a fire, open flame. And then Chabad custom is you strip away basically all the meat, if you will, on the chicken of that chicken neck. And then all you're left with is like a little chicken bone. That's it. Symbolic enough, something of something that existed, whatever, that's now in your Seder plate. That's it, symbolism. We have but just so you know, we have 6 items on the Seder plate. There's the zroa, which is this shank bone, neck bone, whatever, which is symbolic of the Paschal lamb that we don't do today. The egg. What's the symbolism of the egg? It reminds us of the bitter exile. Egg, joking. That's not a thing. The egg reminds us of the holiday offering, not the Paschal lamb, but on the holiday, there was another offering brought. So that's symbolic of that other offering that's missing. So we have a shank bone or a neck for one and an egg for the other. And then we have the charoset, which sweetens, it's that sweet, sticky, who mentioned that? Donna, was that you mentioned?
Yeah, I said
Apples?
about doing the Sephardic way with
Yeah.
apricots.
Yeah, exactly, right. So that's that sweet, sticky mixture that reminds us of the mortar. Then you have, on the other side, you have the vegetable.
Bitter herbs.
No. You have vegetable. I'm sorry, I should have gone the middle. I should have done the middle. So we have the shank bone, the egg, and the maror in the middle. Yes, correct, the maror. Then we have the charoset, the sweet, sticky mortar, substance, nuts and fruit and whatever, and a blend. And then on the other side, we have the parsley, the onion, the potato. Different people use different things. We have that dipping vegetable that we'll dip in salt water. Then on the bottom, we have another iteration of bitter herbs because we actually do it twice. We eat bitter herbs on their own, and then we eat bitter herbs as part of the sandwich with the matzah. And throughout, at some point in the Seder, we actually put the lettuce. We typically use romaine lettuce and or horseradish, grated horseradish, as the bitter herbs. Even though lettuce is not really bitter, but if you take the stalk, if it grows too long, then it's bitter. The message is that you spend too much time in Egypt, and it eventually turns into slavery. So, had we been there for a little bit with Joseph and gotten out, great. We got stuck, things got bitter. That's one of the reasons why we use romaine lettuce as an aside. But our family and many people, we take pure horseradish root. You grate it. This is usually very big, and you grate. Not grate it. You peel it. First thing is peeling it, and then I run it through like a food processor that has a blade, like a shredding blade, shredded, and then I put like a little bit of romaine lettuce with sprinkles of the horseradish. And that's the maror. So it's got a kick. It covers all the sides. It's got the romaine lettuce, which is the traditional way to do it. It doesn't have the kick usually. So the horseradish gives you the bitterness, and you got that together. But you have two iterations of that. One on its own, part of the Seder, and one part of the sandwich, which we eat. The sandwich initially, the initial sandwich, known as Hillel sandwich, that had matzah, the lettuce and or the horseradish stuff, right? The maror. And back in the day when Hillel was the times of the temple, it had the Paschal lamb. This is literally, I don't know, Lord's sandwich. I don't know what the world says, the first guy who made the sandwich. Literally, we had it first.
Judaism's gifts to the world.
Unbelievable. We had the sandwich. It's not even a question. We had the bread.
We
had the lettuce. Sandwich. We had the spicy mayo, the spicy horseradish sauce. Not exactly mayo, I understand. But the spicy, and we had the meat. That's it. Today we're vegetarian with the sandwich. We don't have the meat because we don't have a Paschal lamb. So we just have the matzah and the romaine lettuce horseradish mixture, and that's it. We eat that piece of it, and we avoid mimicking the offering that we are not allowed to bring, that we can't bring because we don't have a temple. We don't like. We're not trying to get too close to that experience. We're like, we don't have it. So we have one thing on the Seder plate. We don't eat it. We have it's there. That's it. Fine.
Rabbi?
Right, yeah.
I'm glad to know my father was in the Chabad tradition because he used to go in the backyard and take, like you said, the horseradish, and that was his contribution to the
Yes.
Yes.
I would imagine he was Russian or Eastern European.
Eastern, my grandparents, right.
That's what everyone did in Eastern Europe. They had horseradish. That's it.
Yeah,
horseradish.
The real thing.
The real thing. Yeah, the real thing. It gets, I'll tell you this, it clears your sinuses. If you get like freshly grated horseradish, like I always do it, freshly grated horseradish, man, I'll tell you this,
Yeah, I know he would be like crying. That's what he would.
So I don't use what they call in Yiddish a Ribaisen. A Ribaisen is the
That's what he did. Yeah,
the hand grater.
that's what he did.
I know. But today we have food processor. I have a food processor that I use all year round for like kugels and whatever and other things, not only kugels. And then I have a food processor just for Passover, for Pesach. So I use the Pesach food processor. I use that to do the horseradish. So a food processor, the one that I have, I don't know. It's a Cuisinart, another company, whatever it is. It's got a base with the motor in it. Then you put like a plastic, it's like a, what do you call it? Like a bowl thing. It's got a top and you feed it in, you push it down with the thing and then you open up the top. You open it up. You got to be careful. If you've grated a lot of horseradish and then you open up because it's like it's kind of closed in.
I know you can actually have a problem with coughing.
You can have a lot of problems with that.
Yeah,
there can be
fumes. They're fumes.
Fumes can be intense. So you got to open it up and kind of like let it.
Another use for the mask. Another use for our mask.
Yes. A modern use for an ancient mask or an ancient use for a modern mask. One of those two is correct, or maybe both have their own way of being correct. Anyway,
Rabbi, one more.
Nothing as fun as getting ready for the Seder.
Right.
Yeah.
So my Passover 2022 jewelry collection includes. I sent you a photo a while back, a couple of, but anyway.
I gotta look at that. Sorry.
It's very beautiful. It's white jade beads, and then a beautiful 3D mini charm replica of the Seder plate. It actually has antique silver. It actually has the little, you can see the egg, you can see the this,
yeah. Nice. By the way, I will say this, the way we do the Seder at Chabad. So here's what you need to know about the Seder. I know like it's not a Passover class, but it's now, I think we're just moving that direction because it's HaChodesh and we're already in the spirit of the reading. The Mafter was about Passover, so let's go. So the way it works is ideally, you start your Seder after nightfall. Now, the problem is we moved the clocks already and man, it's complicated. Just to give you a sense of timing here, okay? In Atlanta right now, I got my Zmana map. Talked about this before, it's great. Seta Kochavim, like when the stars come out, like nightfall, is 8:24 today, 8:24. That's late. And by the way, by in 2 weeks' time, it's going to be later. It's getting later. The sun is setting later. So 8:24 is when 3 stars come out officially. Like that's the time. It's all based on position of the sun. It's all scientific based. These things are all very set, very clear. 8:24 now. Let's say in 2 weeks from now, it's going to be 8:40. Let's just say 8. That's probably going to be later, but let's say 8:40. Let's say 8:45. You know what that means? You can't start your Seder until 8:45. I mean, you could, but you're supposed to start it after nightfall. So what do you do? So I'll tell you what we do here at Chabad for the public Seder. If it's just my family, we would that's it. The kids would nap during the day and everyone's pulling a late nighter. It's not okay. It is what it is. Like, it's late and just go for it. But when we do a community Seder, we also have to like take everyone's, we have to like make it work and make it feasible. So what we do is we call the Seder earlier, 7:30, whatever. I forget the time. We call it earlier. And then everyone gathers and we start eating. Not the Seder. We just start eating because food, right? Jews and food. So we have like a first course. Gefilte fish and salads and drink. We get the whole thing. Everyone's eating and everyone's happy. And we can talk about the Seder, about Passover and all that stuff and sing songs, the whole deal. And then when the time hits, when the clock strikes, whatever that time is, we officially start the Seder. We do Kiddush. We wash our hands, and then we go through the steps of the Seder, but that way it's not on an empty stomach, and hopefully the edge is off, and we'll move a little bit quickly through it, not too quickly, but we'll move at a nice pace, and then we'll get to where we need to get to.
So it's not officially the festive meal. The first part is not the official festive meal.
We'll have another, so here's how we do it. We divide, instead of having, part of the Seder, before you get to the meal, part of the Seder is, you eat matzah, then you eat maror, then you eat matzah maror together, and then you go to the meal. It's a lot of food hitting at the same time. Matzah, it's dense, right? Matzah, maror, and then matzah and maror, and then what? And then gefilte fish, salads, brisket, way too much. So we do it. I think it makes a lot of sense. We start off with the gefilte fish and the salads and the dips and whatever. First appetizers. We hit the appetizers, heavy appetizers. Then we do Kaddish, the Kiddush, we have some wine, and then we dip a vegetable, and then we talk a little bit more. And then we eat the matzah and the mar and the matzah mar together. And then we get to the meal, we pick up with the main course. So we're ready to go. We have a chicken and a brisket and a kugel and vegetables, and then we go dessert. And then we wrap up, and then we finish off the Haggadah, the Seder. So that's how we do it. So that way it kills many birds with one stone. So you're starting at a more reasonable time. People can feel like they come out, not coming out like 9 o'clock for a Seder, come out at a reasonable time. And you also are not going on an empty stomach. You have, you've already eaten, so you're not like on edge, like when's the food coming out? You've already like had a good meal already. I mean, a good first part of the meal. And then you can go through it nicely and whatever. And it's going to be on the later side. Okay. I mean, there's no way around it. If nightfall is only 8:45 ish, and I don't know exactly what the time is, but I'm sure it's around then. And that's when Kiddush is going to be. And so, I mean, even if we move really quickly, probably an hour until like the main course, 9:45. But again, you've already had a meal and it's Passover. We're in for the long haul. I'm not those times are not set in stone. I have to see what times it's going to be. But it should be
reclining.
We'll be reclining. Yes, especially after 4 cups of wine. Man, a lot of reclining. Mark, how's it going? You look like you want to jump in. Oh no, hold on, you're muted. I can't hear you. Oh,
I'm good. I'm just listening.
Oh, okay, good, nice. I saw you emerge from the shadows. So I'm like ready. I'm like ready to turn it over. Got it. So anyway, so that's what's going on. First night of the Seder. And then in the diaspora, we have 2 Seders. In Israel, they have 1. In Israel, they have what we read today. It's a 7-day holiday. That's how they do it in Israel. Here, we have 8 days. We have an extra Seder. We have a second Seder. So it's a little bit different. Why do we have a second Seder? It's a long story. Back in the day, they calculated the calendar. Sorry, the Jewish months were calculated by eyewitness. We've talked about this before. Eyewitnesses saying, I saw the new moon. I saw the moon appear, and they went to court. They went to the court. They provided testimony, and yes, Rosh Chodesh. Problem is, and they didn't operate by a printed calendar. They went by eyewitness testimony. The problem is, when Rosh Chodesh was officially pronounced, it was already the day of Rosh Chodesh. Are you with me? Because they would have seen it at night, and the court only opens the next morning. So it would already kind of like be already like part of the day. You couldn't get word out before WhatsApp, Twitter, whatever, texting. You couldn't email. You couldn't get the word out to people outside of the immediate area, outside of Israel, certainly for like another day or so. So in the diaspora or outside of Israel, they always, whenever the days could be Rosh Chodesh, they just kept essentially 2 days. No, I'm sorry. They, when it came to Rosh Chodesh, they keep 2 days of Rosh Chodesh, or there was a question about, maybe it took more than a day. So there was a question about when Rosh Chodesh was. So when it came time for the festival, so there was a question of which day was actually day 1, which means which day is 15. You with me? If you don't know which day is 1, you're not sure when day 15 of the month is. Anyway, so they would have 2 days of the holiday, just to be sure that they got it right. So today, even though we have a calendar and we're all operating on a fixed calendar, we don't have a high court in a Sanhedrin in Jerusalem that sets the months based on eyewitness testimony. We don't do that when there's a temple. So theoretically, we could all be on the same calendar, but to preserve tradition, Israel has it 1 day, 1 Seder. We in the diaspora have 2. If you want to cut it down to 1, go to Israel. Not a bad thing. Spend L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim next year in Jerusalem. Yeah, you're 1 Seder. By the way, the whole question in halacha and Jewish law is, what if an Israeli is traveling, visiting, whatever, family, friends, and ends up in the diaspora in Atlanta, Georgia for Passover, but he's Israeli or she's Israeli. So what do you do? Do you keep one Seder or two? Do you go by where you come from or where you are? What do you guys think? You're Israeli. Imagine you're Israeli.
Where you are.
The law is like this, that if there's a difference of opinions, obviously, but the accepted law, to my understanding, is that if you're American and you go to Israel, then you follow the local custom. If you're Israeli and you go to America, then you follow Israeli custom, where you came from. The law is biased in favor of Israel. You like that?
But how do we know that the first day is actually the correct?
Nowadays we know when Passover is. Yeah, we know Passover is going to be Friday night, Saturday. We know that's the 15th of the month. That's straight up the 15th day of the month. In the diaspora, we do a second Seder because back in the day they weren't sure in the diaspora, so they did a second Seder. But we know we should still do it. It's tradition, and we still do it. It's like once it's tradition, it's a holy thing. But and there's, according to Kabbalah, it's because in the diaspora, it's less holy. We have a less holy environment. So it takes us 2 tries to accomplish what they do in one shot. Yeah.
So we do have a less holy environment here than in Israel?
For sure. Israel's the Holy Land for a reason. That's the branding. It's not just the tourism tagline. Welcome to the Holy Land. Come visit us. LL tickets on sale now. No, it's the Holy Land legit. So what they can accomplish in one shot, it takes us 2 shots to do. That's it. That's the way it works, right?
But isn't Passover the only holiday where it's like that? Or
no.
Oh no.
No, all the holidays.
All the holidays.
Passover, Sukkot, Shavuot. Shavuot in Israel's 1 day. 1 day you're done. 1 day to eat cheesecake. Here we got 2. It's not a bad thing. It's not 2 ice cream parties. I think we can live with that. 2 Seders, okay, that gets a little bit because the Saturday night is also a late start. Whatever. It's how we roll. But that's the deal. That's the deal. So we do it, and it's tradition, and it's special. But in Israeli, in America, many opinions say that you only keep 1 day of the holiday, which becomes a very weird scenario, where by day number 8, after day 7, the Israeli is done. He's done with the holiday.
I have a question.
Meanwhile, everyone in America still has 1 more day. So this guy could be like, hey, bro, what's going on? Calling back home to Israel. And everyone's like going to shul with their holiday gear and making it happen. That's why Jewish law says that even if you're Israeli in America and you're not celebrating the last day because you're Israeli, don't publicly flaunt that fact. Make your call from a phone booth. They don't exist. Make your call from a private room, a private place where it doesn't seem weird that like somebody who is, hanging around is not observing the holiday suddenly because they're Israeli, but maybe people don't know. So therefore just do that quietly.
So Rabbi, so does that make a Jew born in Israel intrinsically more holy? And my second part of that question is, if someone born in the United States moves to Israel, does then that person become more holy? These
are good questions. I don't know about the person. I'm not qualified to speak about that. The environment is holier. The environment of the Holy Land is a holier environment. And thus, when you're there, it's supercharged. It's like running with less gravity. You can run faster. Alleged, I have no idea. I've never run with less gravity, but I'm thinking. Like moonwalk, you can jump higher, right? Okay, great. So it's not like I have superpowers. It's not me, it's the environment. Like what I can accomplish there, I only need 1 chance. Whereas here, there's a little bit more push. Takes 2 shots to get it done.
So are these rabbinic rules or just tradition?
Look, the Torah says 7 days.
Yeah, I know. So how did we get to?
Because they didn't know when they literally didn't know when.
But then it became tradition.
They didn't have the calendar, so they had to do 2 days. There was no other way around it. Okay, all right. Well, that concludes our convo about Passover. Little impromptu convo. Hope you enjoyed it. Always good talking about the holiday. And Passover again, 2 weeks from tonight. Make sure you got your matzah and gear already, wine and whatever you need. If you need any Seder information or any whatever, reach out, let me know. We got a public Seder, community Seder Friday night, the
15th.
15th of April. There you go, 15th of April. Oh yeah, tax day. Yeah, 15th of April. And that is also the night of the 15th of Nisan, which starts really that night for the next day, whatever. Okay, so that's it. So this Shabbos, don't forget, 3 Torahs or 3 different readings, 1 Tazria, the Torah portion, 1 Rosh Chodesh, because it's Rosh Chodesh tomorrow, and 1 HaChodesh, which speaks about the Paschal Lamb, a reading from Leviticus, a reading from Numbers, and a reading from Exodus. We got 3 out of 5 books represented tomorrow. Check your local listings. All right, we'll see y'all. Take care. Good Shabbos.
Thank you, Yeshua. Good Shabbos.
Pleasure. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.